This is my Pitch My Grade video. So this is my I Am New Here poem, and I believe my I Am New Here poem deserves a 4 because it fits all of the criteria in the 4 category, and now I will show you how. So first of all, to get a 4 on this poem, I need to make sure that I'm using 4 different poetry techniques, and I need to tell you what they are, where they are, and why I chose to use them. So the first poetry technique I want to talk about is line breaks, and you can see my use of line breaks right here. So I specifically chose a lot of enjambment line breaks, which means that I broke up a whole sentence into multiple lines. For example, I would say that a full sentence would be before I ran wraps around the rose garden, period. So I broke that up into 2 sentences, into 2 lines. And I also experimented with really short line breaks, with having just a few words, as you can see with "you got this," "brisk pace," "breathing easy," "no sweat." So I liked enjambment and these really short line breaks because I think it really slows the reader down, and they kind of have to read each line by itself, and it just slows the reader down so they can really focus on the details that I'm including in this poem. The next poetry technique I want to talk about is concrete images. So in this line, rainbows, pullbacks, and Maradonas, I used concrete images, specifically the specific kind of concrete images, because instead of just saying soccer moves, I specifically describe each of the each of the moves and the actual names for those moves. So rainbows, pullbacks, Maradonas are all the names for those specific types of soccer moves. So the reason that I used that in my poem is because I thought it would be kind of fun for soccer players to see and recognize those terms. And I think it also, even if you're not a soccer player, it just creates some curiosity. What are those moves? Rather than just kind of a bland phrase like soccer moves. Either you know what it is and you really recognize it and you can picture those moves in your head, or maybe you have some curiosity and then you would go maybe Google them to see what they are. The next poetry technique I talked about was active verbs. And so this line is an example of active verbs. The ball danced lightly on the tops of my feet. So I chose danced instead of a verb like the ball bounced lightly on the tops of my feet, because I think dance, it really puts a stronger image in the reader's mind of something very delicate and moving with grace, whereas bounce just kind of feels like, okay, the ball bounced. So I feel like by putting in dance, I am painting a stronger picture in the reader's mind. And then my writing is more interesting to read too. The last poetry technique I'm going to talk about in my poem is an example of figurative language, specifically metaphor. So I wrote, "Now my feet are cement blocks." And I really like this because I could have just said, my feet, I was slow. But I love when I say cement blocks, you can see a cement block and maybe even feel a cement block and how much that weighs. So I thought that just really helped the reader understand the point I was trying to get across. And they can literally either see it or even feel the weight of it and kind of imagine what that would be like to have your feet feel like that. And I even liked, instead of I thought about a simile, my feet are like cement blocks, but I thought the metaphor was just more direct and stronger. And it's not, no, they're not like cement blocks, they are cement blocks. So I thought that kind of made my point. It was a little bit more direct than saying they're like cement blocks. So those are the 4 poetry techniques that I used, and I told you what they were, I showed you where they were in my poem, and I explained why I used them, and that's why I think you, Miss Bing, should give me, Miss Bing, a 4 on this poem. Thank you.